71%. That's how many EV owners told me they regret buying one. I've spoken with over 500 drivers, from first-time Tesla owners to long-time Nissan Leaf fans, and the stories line up too perfectly to ignore. Chargers that don't work, batteries that freeze in winter, hidden costs buried in the fine print. These aren't small annoyances, they're deal breakers. And the craziest part? One issue is so bad, it's already triggered resale bans in multiple US states. That's not the future we were promised. Today, we're pulling back the plug on the electric car hype. I'll show you the 17 problems EV owners wish they knew before buying, condensed into 8 brutal truths that could save you thousands. Because behind every sleek commercial and glowing review is a reality most drivers never see. Broken chargers, slow charging speeds, and expensive green tech. That isn't so green once the bills start rolling in. If you think going electric means freedom from the gas pump, wait until you're stranded at midnight, watching your battery tick towards zero while the nearest charger is offline. This isn't EV hate, it's EV honesty. So y'all plug in, buckle up, and get ready. Because what you're about to hear might make you rethink the future of electric cars forever. Problem number 2, or as I call it, the illusion of convenience. On paper, charging an EV sounds effortless. You pull up, plug in, grab a coffee, and in no time you're back on the road. But that fantasy collapses the moment you actually need a charger. You open your map, spot 5 nearby stations, and think you're good. Then reality hits. 3 are broken, 1's blocked, and the last one is behind a locked gate, or reserved for a brand you don't even drive. Welcome to the EV waiting game. As of late 2024, the US had around 61,000 public charging stations. That might sound impressive until you compare it to over 160,000 gas stations, most with multiple pumps running non-stop, millions of gas nozzles, versus a few 100,000 charge ports, many of which are level 2, the kind that take hours instead of minutes. And even when you do find a working spot, you're not exactly filling up. Fast charging might get you to 80% in 20 to 60 minutes, if it's a top-tier level 3 unit, if it's not already in use, and if your car supports it. That's a lot of ifs. Now imagine you're on a road trip, battery low, kids in the back, and the app says the next charger is 20 miles away. You get there, and it's out of order. Or worse, it's a Tesla supercharger, and you drive a Kia EV6. Compatibility might be improving, but it's not universal yet. This is the dirty secret no one tells new EV buyers. Owning an electric car without home charging is like owning a phone with no outlet. Sure, it works, until it doesn't. In cities, it's frustrating. In rural areas, it's a deal breaker. Charging infrastructure just isn't ready for mass adoption, and every coming soon promise feels like a broken one. But the real nightmare starts after you find a charger. Because once you plug in, the clock starts ticking, and time isn't always on your side. Problem number 3, time, the hidden cost of going electric. We've gotten spoiled by gas stations. Pull in, swipe, fill up, and drive off in 5 minutes flat. But with EVS, that convenience disappears the moment you plug in. Even the fastest chargers in the world, level 3 DC fast chargers, still take 20 to 60 minutes to bring your battery up to 80%. That's under perfect conditions, mild weather, a half-empty battery, and no line ahead of you. But perfect conditions rarely exist. Most EV owners rely on level 2 home chargers, the ones that plug into a 240-volt outlet. Those take 8 to 12 hours to fully charge an average battery. That means overnight charging is the norm, not the backup plan. And if you're stuck with a standard wall outlet, level 1 charging, you're looking at 24 hours or more just to recover half a battery. Now picture this. You pull into a busy charging station after a long day. The fast chargers are all taken. Someone's been plugged in for 40 minutes. Another guy's sleeping in his car waiting for his turn. You realize your quick pit stop just became a 1-hour delay. You're not just waiting to charge, you're waiting to start charging. In that moment, the myth of effortless EV ownership cracks, because no matter how advanced your car is, you can't escape the one resource nobody can manufacture: time. The irony? EV ads love to show freedom. People road tripping across mountains or zipping through cities. But real owners know the truth. Your range doesn't just depend on your battery, it depends on your schedule. You can plan ahead, you can precondition your battery, you can use every app in the world to find chargers. But you can't make electricity flow faster than physics allows. And that's when the frustration starts to turn into regret. Because while you're waiting for your battery to fill, you'll start to realize the real price of owning an EV isn't at the dealership, it's what comes next. Upfront costs, hidden fees, insurance hikes, and why going green can still leave your wallet in the red. Problem number 4, the silent price tag nobody talks about. Everyone knows EVs are expensive, but most buyers don't realize how much more they're paying until it's too late. You're not just buying a car, you're buying a battery, a charging system, and a new way of living. Let's start with the sticker shock. On average, electric cars cost $10,000 to $20,000 more than a comparable gas model. A Chevy Bolt starts around $27,000, but the similar-sized gas-powered Chevy Trax under $22,000. That's a $5,000 gap right out of the gate. And that's for entry-level cars. Move up to Teslas, Rivians, or Lucids, and you're staring at $50,000 to $90,000 before options. Why the big difference? 2 words: battery packs. They're the most expensive part of the vehicle, and until manufacturing scales up, those costs fall directly on the buyer. Now, let's talk incentives. Sure, the government promises up to $7,500 in federal tax credits, but not everyone qualifies. Income caps, vehicle price limits, and domestic manufacturing rules knock out thousands of potential buyers. And even if you qualify, that credit might not arrive until tax season, long after the dealer already got your signature. Then there's the hidden setup cost. If you want the full EV experience, you'll need a level 2 home charger. That's another $500 to $2,000 for the hardware. Plus installation fees that can double the bill, especially if your home's wiring isn't ready. Some older houses need full electrical upgrades just to handle the load. That's thousands more, all before your first charge. And the costs don't stop there. Insurance companies have quietly started raising premiums for EV owners. Why? Because repairs are expensive. Battery housings, sensors, body panels, everything costs more and takes longer to replace. Even a small fender bender can turn into a $5,000 plus repair if it damages the battery shield or onboard electronics. So while you're saving on gas, you're paying in every other direction. Higher purchase price, setup costs, insurance premiums, and parts shortages. And just when you think you've swallowed all those costs, another truth hits. Your EV's most expensive component is also its weakest link. Because that $20,000 battery, it doesn't last forever. And replacing it can be the financial knockout punch that ends your EV ownership for good. Problem number 5, the battery betrayal. It's the heart of every EV, the most advanced, most expensive, and supposedly most reliable part of the car. But here's the truth. Most automakers never say out loud. EV batteries age faster than you think. Just like your phone battery weakens after a few years, EV batteries slowly lose capacity every single charge cycle. Data from Recurrent and the US Department of Energy shows the average EV loses 2 to 3% of its range every year. That doesn't sound like much until you do the math. After 8 years, that 300-mile range you paid for might shrink to 240 miles or less. That means more charging stops, longer waits, and creeping range anxiety that never really goes away. I've seen it firsthand. Teslas with 100,000 miles still perform well. But older Nissan Leafs, Chevy Bolts, and even some first-generation Kias, they've lost 20% of their range by year 6. And the causes aren't always under your control. Hot weather, cold weather, fast charging too often. Even where you park, everything affects the chemistry of the pack. Now, here's where it gets scary. Most EVs come with an 8-year or 100,000-mile warranty, but that only covers major defects or total failures, not gradual degradation. So even if your battery still works, but only gives you 70% of your original range, you're on your own. And if that battery eventually fails completely, get ready for a bill that'll make your jaw drop. Battery replacements can cost anywhere from $12,000 to $20,000, sometimes even more. For high-end EVs like Teslas or Lucids, you're looking at $25,000 to $30,000 with labor. That's more than the resale value of some used models. At that point, many owners don't repair. They walk away. Because when your car's most expensive component dies, the car itself dies with it. It's the modern version of planned obsolescence, wrapped in clean energy branding. And even if your battery never fails completely, degradation slowly eats away at your freedom. Every lost mile is a reminder that your EV is quietly aging faster than advertised. But even when the battery's healthy, there's another reality most drivers don't expect. Because the numbers you see on paper, the range, the miles, the optimism, they're lab results. And real roads tell a completely different story. Problem number 6, the real-world range illusion. On paper, most EVs promise 250 to 300 miles per charge. But on the road, you'll be lucky to get close. Those glossy range numbers are born in laboratories. Perfect temperatures, flat tracks, no cargo, no wind, no traffic. Real life doesn't work like that. Hit the highway at 70 miles per hour, and that 300-mile promise can drop to 220 miles or less. Turn on the heater or AC, you lose another 20 or 30. Add a couple of passengers and luggage, you're down again. Climb a hill or face a strong headwind. Now you're fighting physics. And if it's cold, really cold, the numbers get brutal. EV batteries hate low temperatures. Chemical reactions slow down, reducing output, and every mile drains faster. In freezing weather, studies show most EVs lose 30 to 40% of their range. Even the most advanced models like the Tesla Model 3 or Hyundai Ioniq 5 struggle to maintain power. Worse, your heater runs off the same battery you're trying to preserve, pulling energy away from your wheels just to keep you warm. Then there's towing. Trucks like the Ford F-150, Lightning, or Rivian R1T can technically haul 10,000 pounds, but when they do, range plummets. Some tests show a 50% reduction while towing medium loads. That means a 300-mile truck can barely clear 150 miles before begging for a charger. And since most charging stations aren't trailer-friendly, owners have to unhook their loads just to plug in. Even smaller SUVs aren't immune. Roof racks, bikes, and cargo boxes all slice through aerodynamics, draining energy faster than you'd expect. And the kicker? The car doesn't always warn you soon enough. Range estimates can fluctuate mid-trip, leaving you scrambling for a charger that might not even work when you arrive. That's the quiet panic every EV driver knows, watching your predicted range shrink while the miles to the next station stay the same. Gas cars don't do that. When your tank says 100 miles left, it means it. With EVS, the math changes by the minute. But as frustrating as that is, range anxiety isn't the biggest fear, because when your EV finally does break down, or just needs a simple fix, that's when most owners discover a whole new level of pain. Problem number 7, when your high-tech EV turns into a high-cost headache. Let's be honest, modern electric cars are less like vehicles and more like rolling computers. And just like any computer, when the software crashes or the hardware fails, you're stuck. Start with repairs. Traditional mechanics can't just pop the hood and fix an EV. You need special tools, training, and certification. Things most independent shops don't have. That means you're often forced back to the dealership. And dealerships, they're already overwhelmed. Wait times can stretch into weeks, even for simple issues. A minor fender bender on a gas car might cost $800. On an EV, that same repair could top $5,000, especially if it damages sensors, cameras, or worst of all, the battery housing. Some owners have had their cars totaled from what looked like a light tap in a parking lot because the battery inspection alone costs more than the car's value. And that's just the physical side. Now add software. Your EV's entire personality, its acceleration, climate control, even charging, runs on code. And when that code glitches, chaos follows. Frozen touchscreens, GPS maps that vanish mid-drive, auto updates that disable features. I've seen Teslas that refuse to start until they reconnected to Wi-Fi. Kia and Hyundai owners have reported random shutdowns during charging sessions. Some cars even lock out drivers after a failed firmware update. And if you think you can fix it yourself, forget it. Manufacturers lock their systems tighter than iPhones. You're stuck waiting for an over-the-air patch or a technician with clearance to touch the software. Even when it works, you're never truly in control. Many EVs rely on constant internet connections for updates, voice commands, and diagnostics. Drive through a dead zone or lose service, and features can fail, sometimes without warning. Here's the irony. We were promised simpler maintenance. No oil changes, no spark plugs, fewer moving parts. But in exchange, we inherited something worse: complexity. And that complexity doesn't just cost you time, it costs you trust. Because when your smart car won't start, or a software bug traps your battery in limp mode, all the green marketing in the world won't matter. You're stranded, watching an error message instead of a fuel gauge. And even if you're patient enough to live with that, there's still one more truth EV makers don't like to talk about. For all the talk about saving the planet, the story of where EVs come from and what they're made of isn't nearly as clean as it looks. Problem number 8, the dirty secret behind clean energy. You've heard it 1,000 times. Electric cars are saving the planet. Zero emissions, sustainable future, green revolution. But the reality hiding beneath that promise is a lot messier than the marketing suggests, because to build that sleek, silent EV sitting in your driveway, manufacturers first have to dig deep, literally. Every battery needs lithium, cobalt, and nickel, and getting them out of the earth isn't as clean as the commercials make it look. Take cobalt. Over 70% of the world's supply comes from the Democratic Republic of Congo, where reports of child labor and dangerous working conditions have been surfacing for years. Workers dig by hand through toxic mud for just a few dollars a day, so that wealthier nations can drive green. Lithium mining isn't innocent either. Extracting it requires massive amounts of water, up to 500,000 gallons per battery, often in regions like Chile's Atacama Desert, one of the driest places on Earth. The result? Drained aquifers, contaminated water supplies, and displaced local communities. And once those minerals are shipped across the globe, refined and assembled into battery cells, the carbon footprint grows even larger. EVs may produce zero tailpipe emissions, but building them can generate more CO2 than manufacturing a gas-powered car. It's a front-loaded environmental cost most people never see. Now, yes, over time, EVs can offset that carbon debt, but only if they last long enough. If the battery fails early or recycling systems don't recover those materials, the cycle starts all over again. And right now, battery recycling is still in its infancy. Less than 10% of lithium-ion batteries worldwide are recycled effectively. So while electric cars are a step forward, they're not a silver bullet. They shift pollution from tailpipes to supply chains. And until the mining, refining, and recycling processes become truly sustainable, that zero emissions label is more of an aspiration than a fact. But the story doesn't end there. Because even if you overlook the environmental cost, even if you accept the price, the range loss, and the software headaches, one final blow remains. Something that hits every owner eventually. Something that decides whether your $50,000 electric car is worth $30,000 next year or just $10,000. The last and most painful truth: resale. Problem number 9, the resale crash no one's ready for. When you buy a car, you expect some depreciation. But with electric vehicles, that curve doesn't slope. It falls off a cliff. According to iSeeCars, several popular EVs lose over 50% of their value within 5 years. Compare that to the average gas-powered car, which drops around 38%. In plain English, that $50,000 EV you just financed might be worth less than $25,000 before you've even paid it off. Why such a brutal drop? It comes down to 3 things: technology, trust, and time. First, technology. EV tech moves at lightning speed. Every new model has longer range, faster charging, and smarter software. That means last year's car instantly feels outdated, like buying a brand new phone the week before the new iPhone drops. When a 2025 model gets 100 miles more range or faster charge time, the older one becomes yesterday's news overnight. Second, trust. Used EV buyers don't trust the batteries. They can't easily check battery health the way they'd check oil or engine wear. 2 identical EVs with the same mileage can have completely different ranges, depending on how they were charged, driven, or stored. Most listings don't even show that data, so buyers hesitate or offer far less. And finally, time. Once that 8-year battery warranty expires, resale value free falls. Nobody wants to gamble on a $15,000 repair bill for a car that's only worth $18,000. Add in tax incentives for new EVs, which make buying used even less appealing. And you get a used market that's practically collapsing under its own weight. This is why dealerships across the US are quietly pulling back from used EV inventory. Cars that were once $40,000 new are struggling to sell for half that after just a few years. Even major automakers are freezing lease buyouts or adjusting trade-in values because the math no longer works. And it's not just financial pain, it's emotional. Drivers who bought into the future feel left behind, stuck with a depreciating machine that's worth less every month. The dream of clean, cutting-edge tech fades fast when you realize the resale market has already moved on. But here's the twist. The EV story isn't over. Because while the current generation is riddled with flaws, from chargers to range to value, the next wave of electric cars might finally fix what went wrong. New solid-state batteries, faster charging, smarter systems, real sustainability. The kind of innovations that could make people fall in love with EVs again. So before you sell, before you swear off electric cars forever, know this. The next generation might be the one that finally delivers on the promise. And that's exactly what's coming next. In my next video, I'll show you 13 brand new 2025 models that could rewrite everything we know about EVs, from how they charge to how long they last. Click the video on screen now to see what the future of electric cars really looks like. And decide for yourself whether it's finally worth plugging back in.